Hello everyone, this is Maryann from Revealing Light Tarot and Dr Victoria Skirbo. I'll put an R in there, sorry Dr Vicki. We're here today to do a very special video on Halloween, the eve of Halloween in the US and other places around the world, and actually Halloween, the day of Halloween in Australia. So this isn't a political reading, this is all things spiritual. We may even stray into any ghosts that might be surrounding us, that may be still in residence in our houses. We'll look at our early spiritual experiences. We'll also look at where the spirit or where spiritual matters can be found in an astrology chart. And also why we do what we do. Now, Vicki has a very interesting experience with Wicca, so we'll be talking about that. So tune in, keep watching if you want a bit of a Halloween special, because that's what we're hoping to deliver. So, hello, Vicki, how are you?
I'm good, thank you for asking.
Okie doke. All right, I want to start with what were your earliest experiences of spiritual activity, knowledge that there was something more than what the earth around you was telling you. Where did that happen? How did that unfold for you?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question for me, because I think that I always had the feeling I never quite landed when I came into the life. My earliest memories really are of me wondering how I got here. And I would spend like hours in front of the mirror, just like touching my face and just saying, how did I get in here? Like that was the feeling I had at a very, very young age. And I had a very sort of magical, otherworldly life. I was an only child. My parents were older. And I was sort of, I almost felt like I was the princess held in the ivory tower. There was a lot of, I lived on the third floor of a 3-story walk up. Like I couldn't leave where my bedroom was situated. I couldn't leave the house because my parents were always like on guard somehow. Like that was the feeling and the energy. I know it's crazy, but
sorry, where did you think that came from, that feeling? Because you're an empath like me, and you have that your so much Pisces water in your chart. Where do you think that came from? That feeling, that was it they were trying to protect you? Is that what?
Yes. Yes, I think they were. Well, first of all, I was adopted, but they never told me. Like never told me. I found out myself when I was twice. When I was in my 20s, it got brought up to me, and I asked, and everybody said, "Oh no." I'm like, all right. So I figured, why would they lie to me? And then in my 40s, I actually found some stuff when I was cleaning out their house. And then somebody in the family sort of said something off the cuff, not thinking, like probably assuming that at like 45 I knew, right? But I didn't really ever have the proof. I felt it. But there was this sort of like, I felt like I was held in this like
Body.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know if it was like they're telling me this is who I am, but I don't feel like I didn't look like my parents. My parents were little Italian people with brown eyes. I was tall and had blue eyes. I just like, it didn't, and it wasn't that I didn't feel loved and protected, because I felt very loved and very protected, but I just never quite felt like, I don't know. It was so those, I think they're psychic experiences, because I had a whole nother world. Like I lived in my own little world. I had adventures I went on in my mind. I mean, but I was an only child, so I didn't have siblings. When you have siblings, there's more interaction. When you don't have siblings, you kind of have to, you live in this sort of very, and they were very cautious about who they let in. around me because they didn't want anybody to say anything.
Wow, goodness.
And so anything that I thought I knew, I had to reach for on a psychic level, because in reality, nobody was giving me any information. And so I think it drove me to dig. One of the reasons why I'm such a crazy researcher is because I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to get to the truth of it. And I've sort of had to do that my whole life. So it's never really been a, where I say I always felt like there was spirit around me. I would go to church and I would sit there and I would look up and I just felt like I was in heaven. Like there was this heavenly, it always felt like I was surrounded by, I guess, angels, but I didn't have the verbiage to say that. And I loved going to church, but I didn't like the people in church because they were mean to each other. And I was like, you're supposed to be like Jesus. Why is everybody like snarking at each other? And it was very political, and it was very hierarchical, that the political part of church I hated. I didn't like, but I would just love to sit with the candles and the music and the stained glass, and I was just like this.
The spiritual.
So, yeah, very, and that's a very Pisces thing anyway. Pisces is very that energy.
Yeah, I remember, I want to go back to where you said you used to stand in front of the mirror and feel your face. Right. Last night, as you know, on Halloween, the veil is supposed to be at its thinnest. But connecting with spirit requires you to lighten your physical body. It requires you to really go into that meditative trance-like state. And we call it lift your vibration, because the earthly vibration is very dense for spirit. Now, last night when I was, and this is kind of like, what is this heavy body? What is this?
Right.
But last night I've been having quite a lot of dreams in the run-up to, and this has been my connection with spirit. When I was I think about 3 years of age, I've always been an empath, and that, very connected with my emotional body until I, had a few hard knocks, and you start to dumb that down. Yes. But certainly growing up, I remember my first dream, and it was about my mother. I was fearful for my mother. And I recall also doing a lot of flying, astral traveling in my dreams. The other thing that I used to do was I would go into a trance, which I actually wrote with. So I would be channeling
like an automatic writing kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like I would go, it's clairvoyance, only I didn't have the words for it. And a teacher discovered that I was, going into this kind of trance as I was writing. And she didn't have the words for it either. So she just said that, you're a writer, and we've got to nurture that. But if I had someone at that point who was more spiritual, they would have said, you're clairvoyant, you're using medium talents here, and this is what we've got to nurture. So my career was in writing, but always I have been able to sense spirit, particularly in energetic patterns around me when I was a kid. It's like, I don't know what movies, movies coming to mind where you get, this light start to manifest in the air around you. Right. And that frightened me. That absolutely frightened me. And so I really dumbed all that down. I really became a little bit fearful of that. But getting back to the dream that I had last night, which connects with what you're saying about the density of the body, I was following someone who went through basically a white concrete wall. And I thought, how can I get there? How can I follow that person who went there? And I thought, if that person's able to go through it, so am I. And so I put my face and my arms through that, and I was able to move through it. But I became so scared that I would be stuck there that I pulled myself away. So when you said about this, feeling the heaviness of the body, it to me seemed as though you were very much still connected spiritually to your energetic body, and trying to go through this stage of what is this heaviness around me, and further complicated by the secret. Let's just call it the secret. You know,
the original secret, not the secret of the book, but the secret.
That's it. So so I also want to ask you, while we're talking all things spiritual, what's your home like? Because often people will feel things, sense things, see things. What tell us about your the spiritual side of your home?
Well, I didn't have the verbiage to know about spirit and all of that. I didn't really get into, I guess, the verbiage of that, and before I became an ordained witch. I was initiated.
Wow.
So by the time I moved into this house, I had the verbiage and I knew what different things felt like. Like one of the first things my teacher taught me, who I guess she was my psychic development teacher, was that sometimes what you feel is not you, and you have to ask. So if you walk into a room and you get a headache, you have to ask if it's your headache or not. And if it's not your headache and you ask the question, the headache goes away, and then you know it's not yours.
Wow.
So one of my challenges has always been boundaries. My moon is in Pisces. Your moon is in your chart is your experience of the physical world, and mine was in Pisces, in the 8th house of Scorpio. So my physical world was all of these emotions and feelings, and that I was feeling every single one of them, but they mostly weren't mine. So, so that was, but by the time I moved into the house we're in now, we had been looking and we couldn't afford much, and I was self-employed. So when you're self-employed, you have to put like twice as much money down on a house, because I guess they don't trust that you can support yourself. So we didn't have a lot of so we looked at a lot of places. They were small. We like land. We wanted a little land. We saw this place. I looked at it and I handed it to my husband, and he said, we have to go tonight. So we were the second people to look at it. And as soon as we walked in, I felt like the house hugged me.
Oh, wow.
It felt like I was just embraced. And I was like, Michael, I think this is the house. Like, it was like blowing my mind. And then when we were moving into the house, I was moving stuff down into the basement, and I felt somebody put their hand on my back, at the bottom of my back, as if to say, be careful, don't hurt yourself. Like that was the message that I got. But it was actually, it felt like, I don't usually get touched. I don't see stuff. I sense things. Sometimes I know things, and sometimes it's more like clear sentient, is it? I think that you know.
Yep.
And kinesthetic, and I'm kinesthetic. That's and so whereas my husband Michael, he sees a lot of things, and he hears a lot of things.
Right.
I don't always hear stuff, but I know stuff. I feel things. Just comes into me. So I found out that the woman who used to own this house, she loved the house, and her name was Grandma Gert, and she was like I don't know if she had children, but she was like the grandmother of the neighborhood, and all the kids from the neighborhood used to come, and she used to make them candy and stuff. So it was a very welcoming place, and it's an old house. It's about, I think it was built in the 1830s, or at least parts of it. So it's pretty old for
that is old. Yes.
Yeah, and it's got this like fieldstone foundation, and the fieldstone around here has a lot of quartz in it. And so quartz is a magnifier. And so the house is actually made of quartz and the base of it, right? And then we have this, like we're geographically, or yeah, I guess not geographic. What's the geology wise? This whole like area is on a granite shelf that goes down to the ocean. And so there's a lot of water that runs under. There's a lot of underground water where I am. And we actually have like a drain in the house that they had to build, so the water would go under the house and through the house instead of, you know, damage the house. It's called a French drain or something. It's very old. And so that combination, I think, makes my house extraordinarily active.
Yeah, almost like a conductor in a way.
It's like sometimes I think that everybody's having a party at my house. It's like, it's always full of people. It's always
when I tuned in actually to who might be in your house, I definitely picked up your passed over father, but I did pick up the grandmotherly type, the woman there. She was very much sitting on her throne. So I think that she would have had some, you know, some kind, very much her house. And the fact that she warmed to you, nurtured you, you know, welcomed you, I think is a testament to your character, because I don't think she would have done that for many. She seemed quite
particular.
Yes, particular. Just before we started this video, I picked up my pendulum while I was waiting for Vicki to come on. People have asked me about what are these orbs. You know, I can see orbs around people, not all the time, but I can. I think, as I said in my last video, that this is a time when you know, the veil is thinnest, and if we open ourselves up to that with the proper protection, then you know, you allow your loved ones in to come and communicate with you. My orbs, the feeling that I have, it is my passed over mum, it is my passed over dad, and my passed over sister. And also I have some angelic stuff going on here as well. So before I started this reading, I asked, you know, were they here with me? And yes, they were. Do they protect me? They said that there was not a need for protection. Now, I think that's that angelic protection that I have there. I've always sensed I've had it. I've been in some very tricky situations as a young backpacker, we called it, traveling without very much money and a huge backpack on my back to, you know, overseas to the UK and Europe. And you know, I was very naive back in those days, but I always felt that I was protected no matter where I went or what I did. So I feel that there is that protection innately around me. I do work hard on it as well. I do always, before I start a reading, surround myself in that white light. And I call through my my guardian angel, for want of a better word, and my spirit guides to work. The two angels also that I call upon is Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel. Now, you know, when we say archangels, we can't sort of come back to the Bible a bit, but these are angelic presence with personalities, with distinct kind of jobs to do, so to speak.
Right, and almost like constructs of energy, like their geometry. I think it has to. I read somewhere that the word angels and angles, that angels are the way the light angles and manifests itself, because they're really like, they're like light beings is what they are.
Yes, exactly. And we've got a lot of psychic information built up about who and what they are, beyond what the church might call them. The other presence that I have in this house is an elderly gentleman whom I think passed over in this house. It's a very old, the original house is very old as well, and it was one of the first houses in this place where I live, and I think that he is here too. I think he's a benign presence as well.
I think you just pulled my hair.
Did he?
You started talking about somebody tugged a hair off the top of my head.
Oh, there you
just
go.
Like I feel like he was very playful. He might even like hide things on you and like where go, and you're like, I just had them here, and then you turn around, they're there. I think he's playing practical jokes on you.
Well,
he really liked you. He liked you. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's good to know, because I felt him very early on when I came to the house, and that was before I learned to trust, because the antidote to fear is trust. And trust in what spirit was giving me, trust in prophetic dreams, trust in the sensing of energy around me, trust in the way that spirit manifests. I was a bit fearful because I felt him, and I thought, oh gosh, that we have this tendency to think all ghosts are going to be ghoulies. And at that point, he actually he brought through a humorous vibe. So, and I wasn't afraid after that, because I thought this could be a nice ghost. So it's interesting that's what you pick up. Yeah, it's so have you felt, you mentioned Wicca, Vicki.
Yes.
Can you tell me about your experiences with Wicca, please?
Well, I was raised Catholic, and I was actually like literally born in the church. My mother, when she was pregnant with me, was living in a convent with nuns. She gave birth to me in a Catholic hospital, and they brought me to a Catholic orphanage where I spent about my first year of life. So when I say I was actually born in the church, I was literally born in the church. And so I was Catholic. I went to 12 years of Catholic school. I taught Sunday school. I was always very devout in my connection to spirit, like all the spiritual stuff I liked. All the rules and regulations I did not like. I have Uranus on my ascendant. I do not like rules and regulations. I'm kind of a rebel in that respect. But I kept my mouth shut, because you have to keep your mouth shut, right? Otherwise they'll shut you up if you don't. So I was quietly rebellious. But I did have a spiritual crisis in my life that I felt like the church could not support me through. And one of the things that used to really piss me off was that women couldn't serve as couldn't do the mass. And I'm like, why can't women do the mass? Because I'm a woman? It didn't make any sense to me. I'm sure I've had past lives as, priestesses and priests and, high officials in whatever religion that I might have been in at that time, in that lifetime. So, I feel like in myself, I have a natural authority when it comes to spiritual things. And I'm like, I got insulted that I couldn't do mass, or I couldn't become a priest. I'm like, why can't I become a priest?
Exactly.
So that, and the other thing that happened, I actually gave up, anything. I had nothing. I went from being like Catholic to the nines, a little bit of a rebel on the inside, but on the outside, I was all Catholic, and I had nothing. And then what happened was, I found, I read The Mists of Avalon, and then I read the Spiral Dance by Starhawk, and I started to learn about the goddess religions and the power of the feminine and the goddesses. Now, in Catholicism, we have Mary, so at least we have Mary. There are some religions that have nothing; they have no Mary. So we at least had Mary, and there are many Catholics who were like everybody else, and they didn't care about anybody. They didn't care about Jesus. They didn't care about God. It was all about Mary, right? So I knew people like that, and I guess it's the Catholic way of connecting with the goddess, really. But I started,
albeit that she, Mary Magdalene, of course, was stoned. Was
right.
the sinner. Was the
was the dark, right? The dark and the light, and you know. So so I started reading about the goddess stuff, and then I met a woman who was a witch, a Wiccan witch, and so I studied with her, and then I said, I'd like to be initiated if you think I'm ready. So back in 1993, on Candlemas, which is February 2nd, I was initiated as a witch. That day was the first of 3 conjunctions between Neptune and Uranus that was happening in 1993. And I don't know if you experienced it around that time, but like 1993 was a real focus year for like all this new spirituality to come in. There were all these like all these stores, metaphysical stores, bookstores. Now they're all gone. Now you can't find them. But there used to be like all over the place, and it was like all of a sudden everything got lit up. Well, 1993 was a 22 vibration. It was a master spiritual builder vibration too in that. So I had no idea about any of that. I just got initiated on that day, and it wasn't until later when I really started digging into astrology that I realized that that had happened on that day, and that I had been initiated. And so I was with a coven, and unfortunately the same thing happened that happened in church. It became very political. There was all these power games, and I was like, I can't say I don't want to do this anymore. They kicked me out. They kicked me out because I wouldn't bow down to the priest, to the witch in charge. Right? So I'm like, bow down, see you later. You know, I was like not going there. So the same thing that sort of kicked me out of but one more thing, I still feel like that I am connected to the earth, because what Wicca does is it connects you to the seasons, it connects you to the stars, it connects you to and I feel so very connected to that. You know, my life has become what it is because of those connections I made when I decided to become a witch. But I would still consider myself that, but I'm no longer like in a coven with anybody. I'm what we call a solitary.
1993, throughout the 90s, I did a lot of research, a lot of learning, a lot of reading around what people would call the New Age spirituality, because, you know, my path was always leading me to where I am now. But I tended to go to earth energies, Vicki, instead of the spirituality churches. I tended to go to shamanism, because I've always had that deep connection with the earth. And in fact, I felt the beat of the earth. It scared me when I felt it around a particular area near to where I'm living, which is extremely spiritual, Aboriginal spiritual place. But yes, I felt that the beat, the hum, the drum that of coming from deep up within the earth, and connecting with the wind, connecting with the energy of trees, looking for the signs in nature that tell you stories about life. So the tree that bends because it's planted too close to another tree will often, in order to reach the sky, curve and go at another angle. And so even though things can be difficult and there's an obstacle in the path, and of course you can take another option and still meet the goal. So the roots of that tree would have to be particularly strong to carry the different angle. But nature always finds a way. Always finds a way. And I think this is what we have lost sight of in our urbanized type of living. And this is what, you know, I don't want to go back to the virus, but this is what we are being taught. We're being schooled that nature will always find a way.
That's right. And if we let her, nature will heal this as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, you know.
Yes. Let me ask you, as an astrologer, where do you find the spiritual in people's charts?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question next, because I was just going to say, hey, let's look at your chart, because you said some things and it's in your chart. So I thought that might be fun. So let me share my screen. Okay, so it says that you disabled my screen.
Oh, hold on. Let me go and oh, what am I doing? Share? Do I just go share? Uh-oh. Hang on. Let me come back. Oh dear.
Now this is an example of Mercury retrograde.
It is, isn't it? Now just hold on while I come back here and see, because I'm not. Oh dear. Okay, what am I doing here?
You shared your screen, so it should say stop share. It should say
okay. Stop share.
There you go.
Can you still see me?
I can see you just fine. Let me see if I can. No, it says that my ability to share has been disabled. So
hold on, let me go back and go to multiple participants can share simultaneously. You know Zoom better than what I do. Is that helping?
Well, I don't know. Let me check. If not, oh yes, woohoo! We're in. See, now you learned something.
I do.
Who knew? Okay, I just have to move something here. This is an interesting chart. This is not Maryann's chart. This is actually Maryann's chart and my chart together. It's called a composite chart. And then I put the full moon that we can talk about too. That's happening tomorrow. But it's Uranus and the moon are sitting on our Ceres in Taurus, and the sun is sitting on our Neptune, our composite Neptune. And we also have Juno, the goddess, the powerful goddess, right? The queen of heaven, sitting there on the sun next to Neptune. So this is actually a very powerful time for us as two people whose energies are coming together. Right? So, but that's not what we were going to look at Maryann. So let me see if I can find Maryann here. Okay, that's you, but I want to just see just look at your chart. Okay, so this is Maryann, everybody.
Sorry, but look at all those red triangles.
Well, that usually means when you see a lot of red, it means that you get a lot accomplished in your life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, through blood, sweat, and tears.
Right, exactly, right. What goes up must come down. Anyway, I used to do that to my patients too. If they would say something that was like a lyric from a song, I would just start belting out, singing to them. They liked coming to me. So one of the things that you said, that you started your journey on the shamanistic path, right? Well, the mutable signs in astrology are connected to that shamanistic energy. That you're called a daemon soul, meaning that daemon being nature spirits. The church changed it into demons. See, the thing is that the demons are not really demons. They're just miscategorized in a certain way. You know, the demons that the church talks about, they pushed that all underground, and so it became darker and darker.
Yeah, organizations like to put definitions on things, don't they, so that their followers can, believe. But every individual
so that their followers can be fearful of something.
Yeah, and every individual should make their own mind up.
Right, because fear is what controls people. The fear of moving forward through something or to another place. That's why the politicians on both sides are pushing fear. Of course, we know that the right wing pushes fear, that the socialists are going to take over, and the left wing is pushing fear. What if he wins? Then there's nothing holding him back, and all. It's fear. It's controlling us, and I think that's something that we have to kind of be aware of, right? So that's just the church or the people in charge that make us forget our connection to who we really are, and And not just spiritually, as in our connection to God, but also our connection to the earth. You know, it's very, and you have that in your chart. You have a lot of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a mutable sign. Sagittarius is a sign associated with the wild places, right? You couldn't have, you would have never gone through Europe, but with a giant backpack on your back, in hiking boots, as a Sag. If somebody said, I'm going to take you on a trip to Europe and you're going to get to, you know, go in first class and eat at the best restaurants, and you'd have been like, well, that sounds, I mean, if it's a free trip, I'll go. But you probably would never have been as excited as you were to be free. And you know what I mean? So that's the energy of, I could be wrong though, because you do have your moon in Libra. So you do appreciate the finer things. I know that. But all of this Sagittarius connects you to that. So it's natural for you to have that spirituality. Plus, you have Venus, which is what you love, Mercury, the way your mind works, and your Sun, who you are, in the 6th house, which is a Pisces house, which is naturally a Virgo house, which is also a mutable sign. So you're really earthly. Whereas it sounded like my coming in, it's like you were like the earth and I was like heaven, like I was still like up here somewhere. I hadn't yet landed. Now, did you grow up in an area that was
I grew up in the outback, to start with. Red earth, red dirt, a very spiritual place, the outback, because it's not highly settled. And of course you in an era where Aboriginal people would have still been there, probably still practicing their culture. So that's where I started out. And then following on from that, I grew up on a farm. And so I didn't wear any shoes until I had to go to school, and my parents booked me in them. And then as soon as I got back home from school, I'd take my shoes off. Then I'd gather my animals. I collected animals, and my animals around, and we would run and be free together. So it's never left me. It's always been there.
And that is so different from my experience, because I was never allowed to have any animals. All my animals were stuffed animals, and I was never allowed to run free, and I always had to wear shoes because we lived in the city. I grew up in the city. So I didn't even really realize I was a country mouse until I was in the country, because I didn't have that connection with the country. My parents, they didn't go, they were older. They didn't go camping. They didn't do like that fun stuff that young parents do. So I never really, except for my connection with like my grandfather, who you channeled when you did my reading last week or the week before, where he was in the garden. That was like my first introduction into the fact that even food comes from the ground.
Yeah.
You know, I went to the supermarket. Like it was such a ungrounded place to begin with, you know, when you live in a city like that, you know, especially an industrial city. Like here in Boston, when I came up to Boston, I was amazed. I don't know if you've ever been to the States or to Boston. You would love Boston. It's so green. There's like all these beautiful parks. It's all like thought out. There's trees and it's beautiful. So even though you're in a city, you feel like there's so much green space around you. I grew up in a city that didn't have that. So even Boston felt like the frontier to me when I first came up here. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you would say, I mean, that you are from Boston, because I've had many, going back most of my life, I've had fragments of past lives appearing in my dreams. And there was definitely one in America, in a frontier type of town, that I just assumed was somewhere like very early Boston, very early, because it was civilized. It had a degree of wealth with it as well. So I've definitely had past lives where I have lived in America and the UK as well, London particularly. So
Well, that's interesting you should say, because your south node in your chart is in Aquarius. And I think Boston is a Virgo city, but Massachusetts is an Aquarius state.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's very possible. Plus, that Aquarius energy does connect you to the energy of the United States. The United States has an Aquarius moon, and the south node of the United States chart is in Aquarius, and its north node is in Leo, just like yours and mine. We have the same nodal axis because we were born in the same year. And so in that respect, we're both connected in a way to that energy line. And that's where spirit comes in. Spirit, I see spirit in two places in the chart mainly, but it's all over the chart. So it's, but mainly in where Pluto sits in the chart and the south node of the moon. And you happen to have Pluto in that third house. This is the writer. You've spent lifetimes writing. But you have to take that writing, and Pluto evolves through its polarity point. So the polarity point of Pluto is all the way up here. Interestingly enough, conjunct the asteroid Pallas Athena, which is the goddess for social justice.
Yeah.
And you did a lot of writing for social justice, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I
so
did.
There's your soul expressing itself.
Yeah. I should also say too that Chiron in Pisces, of course, being the wounded healer, but the north and the south node are very much where in any astrology readings, including the reading that you did for me, which was wonderful, by the way, I've always been told that even though it's not comfortable for me to be public speaking or producing videos, that I needed to do that, because with that south node in Aquarius, I was stifled in the past in some way, that the knowledge, or even metaphysical knowledge, spiritual knowledge, generally I was suppressed. And so in this lifetime, what I'm doing now is exactly what my soul's purpose with that Pluto in that third house of communication. Absolutely. I'm doing exactly what I should be doing.
Well, the difference, I think, in the past was you were one of many. Like Aquarius as an energy is collective. And so it's connected to things like universities or people are like all together doing the same thing.
Monasteries.
So, well, that's a little more Pisces, but yes, that energy of collectivity, it still has that energy. And then also collectivity in like what's good for the whole. So you're a natural humanitarian, as am I. But it's as if in this lifetime you had a lead, Leo. You couldn't just be one. And you didn't have, when you're one of many, you don't always have the power of your voice. You're not actually allowed, because you're supposed to be more like a functionary. That's kind of a negative thing to say, functionary, but everybody had, like, nobody was going to stand out. And one of the lessons of the south node in Aquarius and the north node in Leo is to step out and say, hey, I have something to say. And so you have something to say, and you have a lot to say, and you're so very learned, and that comes from those lifetimes
and all those red crosses
and writing, right, doing the little like, you learned a lot just from taking the Greek text and making it into whatever they did, Latin or whatever the monks did.
Yeah,
you had times doing that. So
yes. Vicki, I would like, can you have you got your chart somewhere quick?
Oh, sure.
I just want to look at your Pisces, your water energy there.
That's not me. I got to find myself. I'm still trying to find myself.
Sorry.
Oh, there I am. No,
Okay.
that was a joke, because I've been trying to find myself my whole life.
Okay.
We can see that because my north node is in the I am house.
Yes.
I've come in to figure out who I am.
But look at your 8th house there. and the seventh house, seventh and eighth as well. And again, I keep going, what's your take on Chiron in Pisces? What's your take on that?
It's abandonment. It's abandonment by God, feeling that you were abandoned. So there's always abandonment issues. But Chiron always has abandonment issues, but I think in Pisces it's the most soul deep. Like, why are you making me incarnate? Why are you pushing me away? You know, you want to sort of be in that love vibration.
Going home. I tend to now spend, I think, a lot of my dream time in the afterlife. That's been happening in the last 5 to 6 months. So, and it is a wonderful place to be, and why anyone would want to leave it. But we do, don't we? We do, because we come here to learn.
Well, and then we get driven. Like, I mean, there's something inside of us that drives us. And the more driven we are, I feel the more we're connected to our soul. Because that's what the soul does. It drives us. It drives the evolution.
Yes. And look at your Neptune in Scorpio in that third house as well. You've got so many psychic, feeling, empathy, you know, being an empath, so many signatures in there. But along with the first house, it's sort of really challenging you to step out. And you talked about feeling that your face. It's like integration in this lifetime, but not losing sight of what might. It's like you've got to find that balance between the spiritual and the self, who you are.
Yeah, I have to definitely. I've definitely come in to have something to say.
Look at that conjunction.
And I'm not saying it. Spirit is saying it. I'm a channel.
But also in that first house, that Uranus in Leo, and then the North Node in Leo as well. Yeah, it's no wonder you rebelled, the self rebelling.
It's just like something in me. Just, you know, it's like, well, the first house is that energy of your body and like who you are. So planets in the first house are very instinctual. So I will instinctually rebel against authority. I will instinctually dig and dig and dig until I get to the bottom of something. I can't help myself. It's almost an obsession, but not in a bad way. It's not really an obsession.
It's interesting
from eating or anything.
Yeah, it's interesting that every time that in my lifetime, when I've been in big groups where they're hierarchical and where you've got to really struggle to rise up and use your voice, that has almost been a post-traumatic stress environment for me. And so escaping into writing, where there is only, one author and spirit, has been very much how in my early life I found a way to rise. And with the full moon chart, the Taurus moon chart, the Halloween chart, I did a reading yesterday where I was so drawn to the fact that this is about us, all of us. This is not about me or you sitting here doing these videos. It's about every single one that is watching, that has ever silenced their voice. It's about stepping up and expressing yourself. And I think, if we had to be cautious, we should just, be mindful that that Mars is still there in Aries, and we need to be mindful that we're diplomatic in what we say. So that's
you know what Mars retrograde in Aries is about. We're getting a running start. You know how when you were a kid you had to jump over something, you would like back all the way up, and then you take that running start. That's what this Mars retrograde is about. That's why there's no way we're going to go backwards.
No.
And we weren't going to talk politics. Trump's not going to win.
No.
He's not going to win. We're going to get propelled forward.
Yes.
And it's just the tension. It's like a bow, and the tension is we're like right here, and it's just about ready to go like this. And that's going to be when Mars goes direct. That's when they're going to let go. Then the bow's going to let go. And then in a bow and arrow, it sort of sits there for a little while. It doesn't, when it has to realize that it's no longer being pulled back. And then all the energy goes. And we're going to just go in a giant wave right into 2021.
Yes. And when Mars starts to move forward again, is it around about the 13th of November?
Yes, yeah, it's Friday the 13th.
That's
Why
when
not?
the bow gets.
That's right. That's when I think that's when it's let go.
Yes.
And it's going to take a while for it to really like pick up steam, but not that long. You know, like we've been waiting for what, 3.5 years now for something for forward motion, but we couldn't. We had to heal all that. We had to see all that. We had to realize who we are as people. And the thing about America is America's looked at as this like paragon of virtue, and we're not really. We're a bunch of bullies, and we had to be, and so we had to feel what the whole world feels from us.
Yeah.
And once we feel it, we'll say, wait a minute, I don't want to be bullied. We know how South America feels because compared to America, right? You know, as what America has done down there.
Yes.
So we had to feel it, and we have to heal it, to feel it, and heal it, right?
Yes. I also see that we are more or less waking up to that kind of delusionary environment that we've all been swimming in, where in no other time would we think that someone who is, you know, like Trump would be elected and would be believed. You know, the outrageous bald-faced lies. But that North Node is in Gemini, and we've got Mercury sitting in Libra. We are waking up, and the environment. I think, you know, I don't know if the Trumpsters are waking up, but he didn't. He is now going to hold his after party at the White House and not at the Trump International Hotel, which says a lot. He doesn't want to be in a public place when the results start to come in from the election. But this is not his time. You know, we've been labouring under illusion, and it's going.
Right. He's had his time. He's
Yes.
done his purpose. His purpose was to disrupt. And he has done that. And our purpose is to take that opportunity of disruption, because it's crisis and opportunity are the same word in the Chinese. And so we have to take all of this energy that he's really like pepped everybody up when you think of it energetically. You know, all this like people standing up and getting angry, and we need to do that. We need to feel our own power again, instead of giving our power away, right? So we have to feel our power, and when we feel our power, then we start to like feel love for people, and we start walking hand in hand with them, blacks and whites and Latinas and old and young, and, you know, walking for Black Lives Matter. I mean, and that all happened in 2020, and that would not have happened if Donald Trump hadn't won the presidency.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we're coming out of it. I do have to confess also that that Uranus in that blue moon chart.
Oh,
sorry,
yes.
I'm making you jump around.
No, I don't mind.
Yeah, I just feel that we had cyber attacks on the hospitals, and we'll pursue this in another reading. But we need to always be mindful that something unexpected, you know, could unfold in terms of, you know, whatever that is. But ultimately, it makes no difference. If there is some kind of surprise that arises, that early voting is such a barrier and a cushion against the unexpected happening on November the 3rd. Right.
Well,
so many people have already voted.
Right. This new moon this full moon through the United States is across the 11th house and the 5th house. And the 11th house is the Senate and the House. and the fifth house is the young people. And so I think what's going to happen is that this full moon is somehow connected, and of course because it's Uranus, if things blow up and then it just, that what do you call that, the air that comes before, right?
Yes.
That like starts. So I feel like the young people are really going to be the ones that turn things around here. I think it's going to be like, that's an opportunity in America. But I also looked at Australia, because that's my friend Maryann lives down under. I have to work on my Australian accent. You'll help me. Let's see. So this is Australia, and for you guys, it happens in the 3rd house and the 9th house. So this is the house of the mind. This is lower education. This is higher education. Something could be revealed. And it's also, in a way, an awakening, because we're dealing with the axis of the mind, and we have this giant. So your country is awakening. Now, your people are probably already awake, but now they have to push it's like they have to push against the crusty old,
Yes.
old way.
One of the reasons, and I've told this story before, and I'll be quick about it, but one of the reasons I got involved originally was because I could see all of this period of illusion and delusion, and not the truth somehow getting buried and sullied, and people not knowing what to believe. It didn't start in America, but America was the most visible of where that was occurring. But it is occurring in Australia. It absolutely is already occurring in Australia. Now, we have one of the highest concentrations of media ownership in the world, and we only have maybe three major players. The biggest, of course, is Murdoch in Australia,
right.
and
he kind of runs us too. He runs America and England.
Well, we have a petition going at the moment for any of my Australian viewers watching this. Get on and sign it. Our former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has started this petition. It's I think around about 400, hoping to get to 500,000 signatures. It has also been signed on to by another former Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, who was a Conservative, a moderate. And so we've got a former Labor, which is a progressive type of party. And then the Conservative Party, former Prime Minister, coming together to sign this petition to say, we want a royal commission into Murdoch's influence in Australian politics. Wow. Now, people are now starting, what that has done, whether we get a royal commission or not, what that has done is started people thinking, what are we being fed? I see coverage on the major commercial channels here, owned by the three, and what I see coverage of America is they covered Hunter Biden's, the smear, what we know now as a smear, as though it was fact. Now, that is not journalism. Even the most biased of journalists, and I'm getting on my high horse here because Australia has a real problem with media impartiality. You have a bigger pool of ownership in America. Right. But here, if we don't have what is known as the fourth estate to keep governments honest, then, we're in danger of heading into that illusionary minefield there. So this is why Australia has so much vested in a change of leadership in America. So much vested in that.
And it's funny because you had two parties come together for a common goal, right? And here you actually have the Republicans and the Democrats coming together behind Biden to get rid of Trump. Yes. So it is, if you look at it in an energetic way, both Australia and the United States are kind of doing the same thing in what they have to do. like in whatever parameters they can do it in.
Yeah.
So that is illuminating. See, the full moon's working already, right? It's illuminating things I didn't think about, really.
Yes, there's an old saying here that something happens in America and 5 years later it happens in Australia. Hopefully it won't take us that long to move back into that Gemini mindset, Aquarian mindset, where we do trust the scientists, where we do listen to the doctors, where we, wear masks in the middle of a pandemic, where, and leave the politics out of it, because that would be a tragedy.
It's not really the politics, it's the belief. I think it's people's beliefs that are being asked to be changed, not necessarily their politics, because people who follow Trump aren't really Republicans. Do you know what they are? Republicans, but they don't. It's not about being Republican. It's about Trump. And what we have to do now with the North Node in Gemini is we have to gather facts. Facts matter. North Node in Gemini, what we need to let go of, South Node in Sagittarius, is beliefs that no longer serve our evolution. What, no longer serve our emotional growth. So you have to let, the idea that I'm the only person, I can fix everything. I put the United States chart up for a second there because I wanted to show you that the highest planet in the chart, well, it's between Saturn and Neptune. I'd have to do math, and I can't do math in my head. But Neptune up there is the dream, it's the American dream. It's idealism. It's like super idealism. It's in Virgo, so it's a little bit, it's idealism with a bent towards service to others. So we have that. We have all the Cancer planets in the house of partnerships and relationships. And so when Trump goes around and closes down all our relationships, we suffer. Even if he had done nothing else, we suffer, right? So but we had to know that. Because when you think you're like the most powerful Oz, right, you have to be humbled to realize that you're not all that in a bag of chips. You're just somebody living on a planet, and we all have to get along, and you have to stop bullying everybody. That's really, I think, what part of the lesson is for this.
Well, let's hope we don't have any more reality TV shows coming out of America that feature, Donald Trump or the Kardashians or whoever. That whole.
Well, I think that's all. That was the old thing. That was that's the tower coming down, the facade.
And that Mars in Gemini in that 7th house is a welcome thing to see, and also in the Gemini coming through in Australia's chart, I think in the 11th house that you were showing, that they're all welcome, because it insults me when people insult science and insult knowledge and insult facts and twist and lead with illusion and delusion. I'm insulted when I see that. So I'll be relieved to get out of this era, Vicki.
Yeah. You and me both.
Now
we'll go glamping. We'll go glamping across America, you and I.
Oh, I'd love that. Absolutely love.
I mean, it's sort of like you don't really have to carry a backpack. Somebody else will carry it for you. And there's a lot of pillows in the tents, so it's not like you're uncomfortable.
Yes, and also Australia's outback, Australia's centre, Uluru as well. We've got important things coming up in Australia as well, energetically. So, there's a lot to look forward to, and we'll be able to start to do that in future, instead of having to fight this battle that we obviously had to fight. So
yes, there's a lot of fun coming.
Yeah. Now, we were going to pull some tarot, just some last minute messages, given this is Halloween. This is Samhain, which is the Celtic version side of things. I thought I'd pull out my Templar tarot, Vic. So, you know, in keeping with this Celtic theme. Now, you lead. It's your election coming up. Let's have a look at what your messages from Spirit are at this time.
Okay. Do you want to specifically ask about the election?
Do you?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, sure. Why not? Get a little election.
Why not? Why not? It's a tipping point.
Okay, now I'm ready. They're like, no, not yet. I'm using my old Witch's Tarot.
Oh,
You can see.
Lovely.
It's called the Witch's Tarot. I don't think they make it anymore. So this is the six of Swords, and we have the eagle up top there, and we have a bird who pricks her own breast and it's bleeding to feed her children. And so this is about sacrifice. This card is about sacrifice. And so we've all had to make many sacrifices because of the situation that we're in. So we're in a place of having had to make the sacrifice. And I think that making the sacrifice is a very positive thing for us. We had to be humbled. And not just America, but as humanity has to be humbled, I think. But what's crossing it is forward motion. How do I move forward? We feel like we know we have to move forward, but we feel like you can see that he's not on flat ground. He's on solid ground, but it's not flat. So it requires a lot of adjustments that need to be made. So as we move forward at this time, we can't try to think we know how you do it, because it's not about that. It's about mutating into what is necessary. So so in order for us to really move forward at this time, we have to be willing to kind of make concessions, but not really concessions, just adjustments on the fly as we move forward. Okay. So the Tower. So this is a Tower moment of some sort. And, you know, it's very possible. Donald Trump's soul vibration is the Tower, 16-7. And he owns Trump Tower, and everything is the Tower, right? So his downfall could very well just be the Tower moment that we're all going through. And it doesn't have to be like we suffer. It's almost like he said he was going to save us, and now the Savior is being called to task to save us. And so maybe he really is, you know, he doesn't realize it, but he's sacrificing himself. So I feel like this is really a referendum and an energetic, like, again, we're going in a new direction. Like this is shaken. And the Tower is not because he's going to steal the election and the Democrats are going to be devastated. That's not what the Tower is. Tower is that he's out of here.
Yes, it's Pluto bringing down that structure.
Here's the past. This is the Queen of Swords. She's an interesting card because in this deck, the swords are fire. The swords are fire and the wands are air, which is different than in other decks. So this one really reminds me of Nancy Pelosi because she's a queen. She's red. That's Aries. She's got a sword. You know, she's, you know, I don't think she does enough, and I don't think she's progressive enough, but she is a formidable enemy for Trump. For where Trump is at, she's the type of enemy like she was really the stopgap for him, even though she couldn't really, you know, she couldn't really stop it, but she could stop it enough so that, you know, that and it didn't.
Her experience, Vicki, I was only thinking about it this morning, the wealth, her years, her sheer years, her runs on the board, her mileage meant
right.
that,
And being the first woman Speaker of the House, she had to find her power in a man's world. I mean, she knows how to take a man down.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of what we needed.
Yes.
So she's in the past. So in the future, we have the Ace of Swords. So this is the truth.
Yeah.
The truth comes out, right? The new start. The thing with the Ace of Swords is once a decision has been made, you can't go back. The decision has been made. You pick the path, and that's the path you go on. I don't know if you ever watch Cash Peters. Do you ever watch him? He talks about America having a choice between two paths. And that's what this election is. Are we going to go down the path of darkness, or are we going to go into the light? And we're going to go into the light.
Well, that Ace of Swords is a new start.
This is the immediate future. This is the, let's see, it's the King of Wands. So he's at a standstill. He's not moving forward. So what that says to me is we're not going to know right away. It might take up to 6 weeks before we really know. Like we'll see trends, but then at some point it's going to be obvious. I don't know. Maybe he's buying time for himself. This is how it's seen from the outside. This is the Seven of so this card is, she's a sculptress, right? So she creates her own reality in a way. And I think that people are seeing what's going on in America is something we created, that we had to, you created, and then you take responsibility for it. And then if you need to change it.
I agree. Yeah.
In the domestic situation, we have the Seven of Swords. This is a different card than the other decks with the Seven of Swords. In this card, that everybody puts their swords down and they have a good time. So what does this say to me is that we're going to stop fighting. We're going to stop fighting. They talk about us having to come together. Once Trump is gone, we're going to stop fighting each other. Because the pimple has been burst and all the pus came out, and then there's no reason to be angry anymore.
Yes, I agree there. I think a lot of that fighting will die down. Yeah.
This is our hopes and fears, the Queen of Cups. Of course, she brings the cup of emotional healing, and tea and sympathy. We haven't, we can virtually do this, but it's different than sitting across in the same room with somebody that you love and having a cup of tea with a girlfriend. It's not the same. And so we miss that. And that's the future. We're going to get back to that. We're going to be able to hang out with our friends. We just, I don't know, but we ask ourselves all kinds of things, don't we? Why do we ask ourselves these things? So this is the Queen of Wands. This is the outcome. And so she is, the wands here are air. So it's about new ideas, moving down a new path, being open to new ideas. This is also Kamala Harris.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know how long Joe is going to be. He's going to get her. He's going to get her there. He's going to get us there. But how much further what he has in him, I don't know. And I think she's going to take, eventually be the president.
Yeah.
I thought that before, though, anyway. So
that Queen of Wands is not a Trump victory.
The Emperor.
Yeah.
Next to the Queen of Wands.
Clarifying the Queen of Wands.
I think that's Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes. Well, it isn't Trump, is it? So.
No, it's not.
All right.
I thought it was kind of a bold proclamation. Hopefully I'm right. What about Joe Biden? I don't want anything to happen to him. He's a nice man.
Well, also, if you look at the Queen of Wands and the Emperor as the clarifier, what you see is Kamala Harris's great influence on Joe Biden's presidency.
Yes, that's true too.
Now, yeah. I follow her on Facebook, and I see her everywhere in her sneakers, and she is so supportive of him. She's almost the perfect running mate in her sneaky.
Literally. Right.
Literally.
Literally.
And it shows me, particularly her experience as a prosecutor and an attorney general at the state level, is really going to come in handy, because I've done readings, particularly on even the way Trump has handled the pandemic and the way he distributed the supplies. There's so much there that's going to need to be investigated and ultimately prosecuted. So she is absolutely in the right place at the right time. I'll just pull a smaller, I'll just see what I can get from these Templar cards in terms of the election. Let's have a look. So show me clearly, please. Show me clearly, Spirit, what the outcome of the election, the ultimate outcome of the election will be in the US. Show me clearly, please, the outcome of the election. All right, so we have here the Three of Wands, and this is always coming up again, this inspiration that enough work has been done for the election not to be stolen in any way. Again, that getting out, us waiting for the ships to come in. It's been coming up a lot for Joe Biden and Harris, that this is about now just waiting and being patient. And if things happen that are chaotic, that are out of left field, that are unexpected, just hold on to that thought that this is a win, and of course we've got the Democratic, my Four of Wands, community. So we've got the Three and the Four of Wands as the signifier cards. So there could be a wait. Okay, there could be a wait because that is in the crossing position, for results to be known. But don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. The foundation of the reading is the Page of Cups. So again, we have our cup being presented to us. That is the strength. That is the strength of the reading. It can also mean surprises as well. And I did get a lot of that around my Blue Moon reading, that there could be things that jump in front of us. Don't be deterred. We have the Hermit, the Virgo energy in the past, the detail. Virgos are very good at seeing that detail, of being grounded, seeing through the illusion. And also with the pandemic as well, it's given people a chance to step off the treadmill and really do some serious reflecting on things. How do we want the future to be? So we have the Emperor card again in the sky, crowning this reading, taking back control. In the immediate future, we have the King of Swords, which came up for your reading. It wouldn't surprise me if Trump is I guess, corrupt enough to say, okay, all of the mail-in ballots, I want to go to the Supreme Court. There's going to be something that he might find to try and delay, so that there will be that, I think, time lag. But ultimately, we've got the Knight of Truth in the here and now. This energy, I think you pulled some of these same cards. The truth ultimately is the winner here in the election. We have the Star, a healing occurring in the environment around. Things are already starting to move in the direction that we feel. The Five of Pentacles in the hopes and fears. People fear a loss. Goodness knows I fear a loss as well, but it's only a fear. You've got to move with your trust, and that's what this Blue Moon is encouraging us to do. The Queen of Cups in the outcome was in your hopes and fears. This is, again, can be seen as stability, nurturing, sitting beside the Emperor card as well. So we have a male and a female. This is clarified by, this looks like the Devil card in this. So clarified. So what we've got is we've got stability, emotional stability, and we've got the Devil card moving through, transforming something. What are we transforming? And we've got the Sun. And if you look at those two energies, the Devil had to be the transformer. We had to move through the Devil card, the greed, the avarice, what are we chained to, in order to reach the happiness of the sun. So, and the way that we move through
the sun in Cancer in the United States chart.
The way we move through this is through people power, through a movement, through being inspired. And all of that emotional energy, it actually allows us to take back control. It allows us to, we know what is the truth. And that's what we're moving back to, our knowledge of the truth. And that brings with it a healing. So, you know, the only trouble spot I see there is that he could challenge the results.
Oh, yeah.
But ultimately, that is a Biden and a Harris outcome.
And we wouldn't have gone through without each other.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're all here to shine our light. We're all lights. We're all light warriors, and we just have to shine. All you have to do is let go of your fear and shine.
And we're all standing on that equal footing, that healing, equal light field platform, waiting for that ship to come in. And when the final results are known and Biden and Harris are declared with the winners, then we'll all be there standing together, shoulder to shoulder, and our ships do come in. So, all right. Well,
wow, this was so much fun. We did a little bit of everything tonight.
You know, I'm going to try and cook pumpkin pie tonight, just in honor of the American Halloween. You guys love your pumpkins.
Well, you know, we were in Plymouth today. My husband and I, he had to go pick up a car that you rent, a rental car, because he has to do something this weekend. And I said to him, we're driving past the Mayflower, and I said, you know, this year is the 400th year anniversary of the Pilgrims coming to Plymouth. I said, and it's like 2020 and it's COVID, and I said the town must be losing huge money, you know. And it's just kind of it was just kind of like a weird moment where I'm like, wow, things really have changed. Something has shifted. We've been unmoored from something here that I think probably we need to be unmoored from.
Yes.
There's some.
That's that devil energy.
The way we came in and what we did to the natives. You know, it's very raw here in Plymouth, Massachusetts, because that's where it started, really. You know, I mean, actually, it started in Virginia, but they didn't live. I think that was, or Jamestown or something. I think they died. So Plymouth was the first place they came to. They lived.
There's a lot of work to be done. When we get victory, there's just so much work to be done, and
everybody will have a job. I know that.
I think
so we don't have to worry about people not having jobs, because everything has to get changed and shifted and moved and reorganized, and so you need people for that. So there's going to be plenty of work.
It'll be good to be able to look to the future with some degree, even though we know the hard work is there, but some degree of positivity
and hope.
And hope.
We had Obama, hope, and then Spirit said, "Are you really sure? I'm going to give you Trump for a little while," and now we get to do hope again.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Vic. I'll stop the recording here. Let me just do that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.